Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC out in some very cold woods. Now I say very cold, I've done it again, I've started another piece of content talking about the weather. It's if you ever need to talk to a British person and you don't know how to start a conversation, start by talking about the weather and you'll just be accepted. So we are here today to look at an anorak, or they call it a smock. From Snugpack. So this is the Snugpak Tactical Softie Smock. Now, some people might call it a smock, some people might call it an anorak. Personally, I'd call this an anorak. However, today it's identifying as a smock, so that we'll just respect how it identifies. But either way, one of the things that certainly Snugpack are concerned, their reputation around them. One is for the excellent quality of the materials and the things that they make, but two is if you're ever in a pinch and you're cold, their Softie Elite and the different sleeping bags that they have are internationally well renowned. Let's just say that. In fact, let's hear in the comments below, do you own a Snugpack sleeping bag and how comfortable is it in those very low temperatures? Now imagine a company that makes amazing sleeping bags and somebody says to them, do you know what, you should make one of those sleeping bags and you should turn it into a smock, and they go, we're one step ahead of you. We have the Tactical Softie Smock. And that's pretty much what this is. So there's been a few times that I've had a look into companies that make jackets from wubbies, and this kind of is. Now I'm not going to say it's similar to that, but for all intents and purposes it kind of is. It's rather than making something from a wubbie, they've made something from one of their sleeping bags that they have, and that's this. Now, before I get into it, as I usually do, just a little bit about me as far as my sizes are concerned. So I'm 5'9". I'm about 15 stone. I'm actually just a fraction less, but if I'm rounding up, let's say 15 stone. I have a 46-inch chest. I have a 34/35-inch waist. And the size of the Tactical Softie that I'm wearing today, this is an extra large, and it fits me just great. It's probably a hair too big, however I'm not concerned about that, mainly because if I did want to add other layers underneath here, then I could certainly do that. As far as keeping you warm though, so as it stands at the moment, all I'm wearing underneath here, the temperature today, before I set out this morning and I came down here, the temperature was about 6 degrees. All I have underneath here is a simple cotton t-shirt. That's it. There's nothing more underneath here. And in the temperature that it is today, it's keeping me lovely and warm. As far as kind of how I've tested this, I've had this a little bit longer than I would do some other jackets to make sure that I can test this. Now I actually got this towards the end of the winter last year. It was kind of that cusp between winter and spring, so I did get some cold days with this. I've done some really nice walks with this, and I have found on quite a few occasions that this has just kept me warm. I didn't need to have anything underneath here other than just a base layer. It does incredibly good at keeping you warm. Recently, the last week or so here in the UK, it's been unseasonably cold. It's got down to about, say, -4, -3, -4. I work from my shed in my garden and I've had this on and down to -4. Now I'm not going to say I just had a t-shirt on underneath here. I had another fleece and then I had this over the top. But I've not needed to use my heater in my shed because I've just been wearing this, and it's been great. So if you're concerned about getting this and staying warm whilst cold, you certainly don't need to concern yourself about this. The insulation in here, which we will have a look at, and all kind of the different materials and stuff we will have a look at in a second. One thing that I would say is though, be prepared to be hot. I've done a couple of walks. I did a walk recently where I was out wearing this, and I was at the point where I'd opened the sides on this. I got this unzipped, and I started off too hot. I then had to take my mid layer off underneath this and just have the t-shirt and this on, and then I was fine. But I think I was kind of overexerting walking through the hills with this anyway. So it's definitely something that you need to consider with this, is because of if it's not too cold, then you might end up being too hot, and then you've got any issues with possibly sweating and that sort of stuff. Now what I would say as well is that this does a good job of helping your body to breathe underneath here. So as far as the materials that this is made from, now think back to your softie sleeping bag, and it's the same material. So the outside, this is a nylon material called Paratex. It's got, I'll show you here, but you won't see it because it's so fine, but it's got like a ripped stop texture to this. The Paratex does a very good job, one, of keeping the heat in, but also letting the moisture out. So when you're in this, you will be hot, but it will help you to manage some of the heat and some of the sweat whilst you're in this, and it does a good job of that. The Paratex material isn't waterproof in the literal sense of if you went out and you just in a downpour for 3 hours that you'd be bone dry. It doesn't do that, but there is some water resistant properties to this. In fact, yesterday I was out, my youngest daughter Adelheid was playing football, it was raining, and I just had this again with a t-shirt underneath. Oh no, I didn't. I had a base layer underneath, but anyway, I was dry through the entire hour and a half, however long of football matches. Got back to my car, took this off. My legs were a little bit wet, but taking this off, putting this in the boot of my car, I was completely bone dry underneath. So it does a good job of keeping the water away from you. Now, if that was a torrential downpour over a prolonged period, I don't believe there's taped seams. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's no taped seams in here. So it would eventually seep through. But the internal what's the word, insulation on here, so this is their Softie Premier, which is a polyester insulation, which does a very good job of still keeping you warm if it is wet. So there are a lot of insulations that as soon as they get wet, any sort of thermal properties just completely disappear. With this though, those thermal properties still stay there, and you know, it will continue to keep you warm. You might still be a little bit wet, but the most important thing is, yeah, they're certainly keeping warm. The other materials that are on here, you got some Velcro, some hook and loop on the front here, zips on here, all YKK zips, nice and buttery smooth. And then on the inside, the names just escaped me. I'll put down the name here, but on the inside. Now you'll see me struggling with these zips. I'm not actually struggling with the zips, but every single time you try and do something on camera, you struggle with them. But I will say, so very similar to most double zips. You ever find with most double zips when you're trying to fiddle with them, sometimes they're just a bit, you have to kind of get it at the right angle to then zip it. But on the inside here, you then have a very kind of fine micro fleece. Getting this on and off, and I'm kind of skipping forward here, so getting this on and off, you do have these side zips, so you can use these, one, to manage your heat whilst you're out, but two, this is really useful for getting this on and off. I'm not going to take it off now because I don't want to show you my belly, but this micro fleece here has a very kind of grippy texture to it. So I will say, on plenty of occasions, having took this off in front of friends and family, it is unfortunately one of those tops that when you take it off, it tends to take off whatever you've got underneath here. If you're wearing cotton or wool, it will kind of pull that up. If it is that you're wearing like a polyester base layer or a nylon base layer, it doesn't pull those up, it just glides on those. I suppose as an extra point, if you're wearing a shirt, when you put your arms into here, it does that thing where your shirt kind of crumples up here, so you just have to pull in and pull your zip down a bit. It's not really positive, it's not really a negative, it's just an observation. It's just one of those weird kind of first world dilemmas that you find when you take something off, that your t-shirt comes off with it and everyone's like, oh, Randy's belly. Anyway, so yeah, but what that internal fleece then again does is, if it is that you are hot and you are sweating, that it will help to wick some of that moisture away from you, which it will then be able to get out through the outer materials. Now, going to the actual jacket itself, because I appreciate I've talked a lot already about the materials in here. As far as, I mean, what I'd call an anorak, but Snugpack have decided that this is a smock. It's a fairly kind of outdoors anorak stroke smock. So starting at the neck here, the collar on here is reasonably nice and high, so if you did want to zip this up, which of course you can do all the way up to the top, and I always generally, although they say, oh, we've got a beard protector on this, you won't get your facial pubes caught in this, and then you zip it up and you do get your facial pubes caught in it. But yes, it's a reasonably high neck. I have a 17.5 inch neck. I can get 3 or 4 fingers into here, so this is probably like maybe an 18 or a 19 inch neck. For the extra large, it's great on me. It doesn't allow any kind of air in there. Now on the back, just in case you do have a large chest but a smaller neck, there is a toggle here on the back, so you can pull that in, and then you can pull it a little bit closer into your neck if needs be. The zip on the front is a 3/4 zip, so for me it comes down just roughly midway in my sternum, kind of level with my nipples, and then yeah, that's kind of where the zip comes down to. When you have this on, if you have a large head, or if it is that you're doing something where you have a helmet on, then having this zipped all the way down to the bottom just makes it easier to be able to get your head in and out. But most of the time I kind of keep it here, and I can still take this off. I find that it kind of pulls my hat around, but that's kind of what I was mentioning about that internal fleece. It likes to grip things and move them on your head. But having it just about there, I can still take this on and off. Relatively simple. On the front here, so there's a small Snugpack logo on the front. As far as colours are concerned, at the time of filming, this is available in 3 colours. You have the green version, which I'm wearing here. There is a black version, and there is also a multicam version as well, just in case you need to do some kind of military stuff. Now on that side, if I haven't mentioned this already, as far as Snugpack is concerned, here in the UK, and I know for the rest of the world, these are used a lot by the military, by mountain rescue, by so many different organisations to make sure that they can stay nice and warm whilst they're out and about. Kind of adds to that credit that they certainly have in their name. Now moving down underneath here, you then have a hook and loop strip here, so if you did want to put some morale patches onto this, then you can do. Then behind that you have a large kangaroo Joey style pocket on here. Now on the inside, I have my lens capped, but on the inside I also have a compression bag, because this does come with a compression bag, so if you did need to take this off, put it into something, compress it down. Actually, it's not a compression bag, I take that back, it's just a stuff sack. But if you wanted to put it into a compression bag, then you certainly could do. With it being that not a natural fibre, you could compress this, take it out, give it a shake, and then have all of the thermal kind of properties within a second of unshaking it anyway. So yes, large pocket. I mean, it is pretty big. It goes pretty much from here to here and down about, say, 10, 11 inches or so. If you needed to put a map into here, you'd certainly have no issues putting a map. I could easily put my hat. I could fit a pair of gloves in here as well to keep them nice and warm. No issues whatsoever. Now, as far as other storage is concerned, so you have this kangaroo style Joey pocket here, but then there are also 2 other pockets or I say two, it's actually one, because it is a full pass-through here at the waist. If it is that you're wearing a rucksack, depending on your height and where it goes, it does kind of cover these pockets, but because you have this additional pocket here, then that's why that's there, because you will kind of lose some of the functionality from these. On the inside of this pass-through pocket, it uses, which you probably can't see, it uses the same fleece on the inside. So again, watching Adelheid play football, I certainly don't have to worry about having cold hands, keep my hands in here. I can interlock my fingers and yeah, my hands stay nice and warm. There's also a lip on the inside here as well. So where this pocket ends here, the pocket actually goes further down. So if you're concerned about putting stuff into here, if you're climbing around and things have fallen out of your pockets in the past, it's a fairly substantial lip, so it's not accidentally going to be able to fall out. But if you need to close these up, then both of these have pockets, both of these have zips over the pockets, and there's also a storm flap over the zip, which one keeps that zip out of the rain, but two also means that if you do have a rucksack on and then your belt, your waist belt goes over the zips, it's not going to interfere with that zip, and it's not going to then kind of rub against your backpack and do kind of bad things. But yeah, it's nice that it keeps those out of the way. Now as far as the sleeves are concerned, there's no additional bicep pockets on here, but I think for this type of outdoors garment, I don't miss those bicep pockets. I don't feel as though it needs it. It's got this large pocket here on the front, which doubles up if it is that you're wearing a waist belt on here, so I've not felt like I needed those pockets. But yeah, so you have some hook and loop on here. If there was one thing, and this is me being uber picky, because I can afford to be picky if I want to, and that is, so this hook and loop here is, I'm guessing it's the same 50mm hook and loop that's here, but they've just cut it and it's two pieces. Now I know you can get wider, larger hook and loop because I've seen it on others. It just seems strange. I don't know. Anyway, that is god level picky, but it's the only thing that I can find any faults on here. If I was to say if there's anything that I would change. Now I did mention, so coming through here, you then have these zips, which I always struggle with, but the zips themselves, you can open this front up. So if it is that you're doing any bushcrafting or anything like that, and maybe you need to get to something that's on the side, then you can certainly do that. But definitely when you're taking this off and putting this on, if you undo the zips when you take it off, it makes it easier to take off. And then because they're already undone, when you put them back on again, it makes it easier to makes those easier to put on. Now if it is that you wanted to do some kind of special passing your belt through here, now you can do that. So if you put your rucksack on, put your belt through here, put this down, then you could zip these down a little bit further to allow that to happen. At the bottom here, there is some hook and loop. So certainly for heat management, it's easy to be able to zip these up. Then have the hook and loop here at the bottom. Just, oh, I missed that there for a second. Pull this over and it will allow some of that heat to come out. These don't have armpit zips. There's no armpit zips on here, but because you have these large zips at the side, it means that you can allow some of that. But you could put your rucksack on, you could put your belt through here, and then you could work it that way. Or these are double zips. So if I put these down all the way down to the bottom and put the Velcro over, there is another zip just here. Now the thing with this zip is, so this is a double zip, and it also has one of those reversible zip tabs. So I can put it on the outside, or I can flick it round and put it on the inside. So again, if it is that I've got this on and I want to run a belt through here, I can certainly do that. Or if it's really cold and maybe I've got another jacket underneath this and there's something in those pockets, then you can unzip this and you can put your hands into those pockets. So instead of using the pockets here, then you can use these side bits to get into other pockets. Or if it is maybe that you've got something in your actual pocket here, I can get into that through the side bits. Now, because it might be that you're out walking and you do have your rucksack on or whatever it is that you've got on, so rather than having these zipper pulls on the outside, you can push them in because it has that bit where it goes over the top, and then with a little jiggery pokery, you can then have the zipper pulls on the inside and just shufty it up a little bit so that it goes up to the top. So again, if it is that you're out and you're worried about these kind of rubbing on you or any other piece of equipment that you've got, it will stop that from rubbing against that, and it will help to prolong them as well. I've just realised while I was talking about the zips, before I got onto these zips, there was one thing that I forgot to mention. So on the sleeves, as far as the cuffs of these concerned, rather than having an adjustable cuff, these have an elastic cuff. The cuff on this is actually quite nice. So I have a 7.5 inch wrist, and I can still easily fit a good couple of fingers into there. So it doesn't kind of rub on my wrists while I'm moving my hands like that. Very easy to be able to lift up and be able to check the time. If it is that you've got gloves, then you could easily have your gloves, pull these over the gloves to make sure that nothing gets into them. If you need to though, which is how I've had these this time, is that there are these thumb holes here, so you can have those in there. The arms are ever so slightly longer than they would normally be, purposely for those maybe extra inch or so that you can get those thumbs in, and if you need to move it a little bit further down, it will kind of keep just your fingers out if it is that you need to do stuff. Now, as far as the hem at the bottom is concerned, there's no additional bungee or anything like that in here to be able to close this hem, which is fairly typical for this style of anorak or this style of this style of smock. If it is that you did need to pinch it in a little bit more, so I've mentioned these Velcro side bits. So when you have it on there, there's another good inch or so on the end. So what you can do is just pull it past there, and that will bring it in maybe an inch or two on this side. Then you could do exactly the same on this side, which I can already feel, especially around the back here across my butt. That has just pulled it in a little bit for me. Personally, I just kind of keep it where it is, but because you'll be opening these zips and closing these zips, does a great job. So there you go. Now, the one thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this as well is, so Snugpack have a range of different outdoor garments. Some of them are made here in the UK, which means that you get to support UK businesses and kind of UK manufacturing. Some of them are made in China, which means that you get to support UK businesses, but because they're made abroad, then it makes them a little bit cheaper because labour in China is a little bit cheaper as well. These are ones that are made here in the UK. I like to say that. I think it's nice to be able to support British businesses and also British manufacturing here in the UK. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I like this. When I wear this, and I think that it has been made here in the UK, it just adds something extra to it. Let's just leave it at that for now. So if you like to support UK business and UK manufacturing with the Tactical Softie Smock, then you'll certainly be doing that. I should have probably added that at the beginning. Now, I do need to mention, so this was sent to me from Snugpack. I have worked with them quite a bit in the past. I have a few other pieces that I've been working on. So when they sent this to me at the end of last winter, they sent some other things as well, which I've been testing through the summer. So there will be some more stuff coming out. So I do want to say a huge thank you and a shout out to the team at Snugpack. I'll leave those links below so that you can see more from them. I'll leave some of my social media links below so you can see more from me here on Moorlander EDC and my sister channel Moorlander Tactical. And whether you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. I am going to be fighting to the utmost today. I do love a good that's what she said, but when you're talking about a tactical softie, that's what she said goes to the next level, because Mrs. Moorlander and I have had many tactical softies. No, that sounds bad on Mrs. Moorlander. Anyway. No. Anyway. I need to remember these names. They've got some brand names. It's Paratex, isn't it? Paratex. I know the word. Paratex. Softie Premier. Paratex is nylon. Softie Premier, polyester. Thinking. I know I'm dyslexic as fook, but sometimes I can remember some things. Anyway. I hope that wasn't out of focus. I feel like it lost my face then for a second. Because you need to see this beautiful face, don't you? This handsome, devilishly rogue kind of fizzog. I tell you what, let's do a